Good.
Everything is terrible. Hold on, let me make sure I can navigate through this. I can. This is a talk on durable skills. I'm Monica Storss. I'm a poet theorist that works with emerging technologies for human flourishing. It's not your imagination. Everything is terrible. Like, everything is terrible. So we have a forecast of a bunch of different things going on right now. The world is currently in polycrisis. And when the forecast is terrible, the knee-jerk reaction is often to pivot towards really utilitarian or technical solutions. I'm going to argue for the opposite in this. But first I want you to join me in the chat in a naming ceremony. What are you anxious or worried about? What is something that fills you with dread? Please put it in the chat or verbally say it aloud. This is a judgment-free zone. There will be no commenting on it. So whatever is filling you with dread. AI, nuclear war, border crossing, yeah. Resource scarcity, political bonker stuff. So even if you're not comfortable sharing out, if you can visualize and name something that is anxiety filling you with dread. Okay, and now I'm going to close our naming ceremony. Close this part. Okay, close out the chat. Thank you for participating in the naming ceremony. Wait, come back. So this session is going to argue the opposite, that the arts and humanities are the disciplines that provide durable skills necessary to navigate existential and ethical complexities of our future. I wrote this amazing paper that everybody should read. The Primacy of Poetics, Why Artists Will Build the Metaverse, and I did a lot of research for it. It's a fabulous paper. I'll put the link in the chat. Go read it. Please cite it. While I was reading it, while I was engaging with this work, I thought of something that the poet Matthew Dickman told me was, in times of crisis, we turn to poetry. And it's true. Whenever shit goes down, we turn to the arts. When we get married, when there's a birth, death, weddings, funerals, inaugurations, whenever things get real, we turn to the arts. Why is that? Also, I have this whole separate practice where I do like space poetry. I collaborate with SETI and JPL and Caltech and do space poetry. And what I research there are something called durable skills and transversal competencies. Those are the skills that make you fit to go on a space mission. It makes you not... What are the human things that make you not freak the geek out? What are the important human things that we need to keep and encourage and be fostering? So I also research durable skills and transversal competencies. What I found was something called the durability gap, identifying the hard skills are deprecating and soft humanity skills are becoming what is valuable, is actually valuable. So technical skills expire. They become obsolete in about 10 years. You got about a 10-year time frame, whatever you use. Do not heavily emotionally invest into learning a tool or your coding language or whatever. It's going to be obsolete. Human capacities compound and they do not expire. So ethical judgment, empathy, imagination, narrative agency, tolerance for ambiguous. It's the human capacities that are actually the future-proof critical skills. So we found depreciating scarcity in code and design production, managerial oversight. And we found durable value in poetic vision, ethical judgment, meaning making, intuition, narrative construction. It turns out soft skills are like the hardest ones of all, and the arts and the humanities are the thing that makes those skills solidify. What did not create value was photorealism, brand control, prepackaged experience, metric-driven engagement. What did create value, this was looking at specifically at digital user-based platforms, identity play, emerging culture, shared mythos, meaning-making, belonging. That is what actually created monetary value. I'm not talking about like meta value. Yes, that's important, but like money, bling bling, like these are the actual things on the right that created products that had monetary fiscal value. So it's a false choice. We're often told to become more practical. It's not exactly true. To do measurable, technical, scalable, immediate things. And now that we're in crises, the arts are treated as expendable and being defunded when really they're actually what's most necessary. The arts are infrastructure. I don't need to tell you guys that. My research also predicts that we're going to have the rise of this new professional class called the synthesist that can bridge these domains, so that can have technical fluency with the humanities fluency, and that they will be interwoven and weaving everything that everyone here is doing, everything that the ELO is doing, is going to be the future, like the capital, the future skill. Narrative agency. So algorithmic determinism has temporarily usurped our narrative agency, which is our inherent ability to tell and frame stories in our real world, our sense of meaning making. Narrative agency helps us interrogate, who am I? Like, what is this story? Who benefits from it? What does it make possible or imagine? It's like all the English teacher questions, right, of the short story. And it doesn't deny crisis, it changes our relationship to it. So when we have doom script to agency, AI will replace us becomes what human capacities are more necessary. World's on fire. What forms of care or memory or repair are possible? No one knows what real. How are we going to make shared meaning making then? Everything's underfunded. So what if they are the survival infrastructure? So narrative agency is the capacity to recognize and remake the stories that organize our reality. And we reclaim narrative agency through creative practice and engagement with the arts. And so I want to have us do one final activity of a crisis reframe. You're going to take whatever your anxiety was and you're going to reframe it as a sentence about the future. And I want you to rewrite it as a question or a refusal or an invitation. So, AI will replace us becomes what human capacities become more necessary. So in the chat, think whatever your naming ceremony was, rewrite that. Reclaim the narrative agency and rewrite it as an invitation, question, or refusal. You can put it in the chat. Oh my God, love it. Reframing. How can we work with AI as a partner to save humanity instead of destroying it? Love it. Love it. Diplomacy and narrativization can and has prevented war. How can we embed this in our creative writing or humanities? Where'd it go? And feel free to come off mute, too. Humanities pedagogies. Love it. What can we do to help each other, love each other, and help each other love each other? Humanity will learn to appreciate life more when it is even more fragile. How can we teach our children to think, empathize, and do what AI can never do? How do we strengthen human-to-human contact? I love these. These are beautiful. So I really challenge you to reclaim that narrative agency when the hold on, I'm Xing out of the chat. When the going gets tough, reclaim that narrative agency and do not stop now. The world is unstable. The arts are not optional. Hold on. And I want you to imagine this as a form of speculative repair. So what must be preserved? What needs to be refused? What needs to be repaired? What has not yet been imagined? And this is what the arts and humanities train you for, right? Like you who are humanities people have been training for this your entire life. Like it is your time. Now is your moment. Like now is when you are needed to help reframe these. Don't stop now. Don't give up. You are the ones with the actual skills in order to change this narrative, to metabolize fear, to sustain the relation between each other, to preserve memory and imagine otherwise. And the question is not whether the arts are going to survive the future. The question is what the future will be like if it can't survive without the arts. Okay, thank you.
Yay! Thank you
Okay.
very much for this. We're gonna hold questions for the end of all the lightning talks. So thank you, Monica. And we are going to pause the recording so that I can tell them apart later.